How's it hanging, everyone? It's Jake here again with Infinite Nebula Gaming. We got another deck list profile to show you all. I took this one to locals yesterday, did fairly well. It's Runic Mine. Mine's in there as more of a stall, more heavy on the Runic stuff. But to get into how locals went, overall I took second out of a 12-man tournament. It was 3 rounds. There was a possible fourth round if there was no clear victor, but we had a clear victor after 3. So 3-round tournament. I went 2-0-1, so I had the 1 tie. And then so for my matchups, I had Branded Heroes match 1, 2-0'd that first match. Match 2, that was probably my toughest match against a 60 card Eldritch deck, which freaking Eldritch. They're trying to stall me, I'm trying to stall them. In that game, that was the toughest matchup just because going up against a 60 card deck when your main win condition with Runics is to mill out your opponent. So we tied that one. And then game 3, I went up against a Dragon Link deck and 2-0'd him. Once I had mine on the board and was able to mill out all of my opponent's outs at that point. It was a fairly easy victory right there. So took second with that. First place was a branded deck. That guy took 3-0. And then me second place, 2-0-1. And then third place was also another branded deck list. That guy was a 2-0-1. So technically we were tied, but because of my matchups, I took second place off of that. So that was locals yesterday, and I'm still tweaking the deck a little bit here and there. But let's get into the deck profile that I had yesterday at locals. And so we'll start with the main deck and the runic cards. So I run 3 tips, the main staple of the deck. This is your searcher for any other runic quick play spells. And for all the runic quick play spells too, if you guys don't know or you're completely brand new to the deck, they have 2 effects. The first effect, you can either use the first effect or the second effect. The first effect's always going to be something different per card, and then the second effect's always special summon a runic monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. That's always their effects. And then they also have the next time you were to go into your battle phase, it gets skipped. So that's something that always comes up, and you have to make sure that if you're running this deck, that you declare battle phase, so then you get that skip, because if you go straight into end phase, then it doesn't skip, and that's still a floating effect from all the quick plays. So 3 runic tips to start out with. Then I run 3 runic freezing curses. With freezing curses, you target 1 effect monster your opponent controls and negate its effects for the end of the turn. And then the secondary effect, again, special summon a runic monster from the extra deck. Pretty straightforward there. I found this really nice right here. If I was going second and my opponent sets up a board and doesn't allow me to get into mine somehow or get into my main plays, either bait them out with this or target one of their monsters that's slowing me down and shut off its effects. So I run that at 3. Then I run 3 Runic Destruction. Destruction, this is your spell trap removal right here. You target a spell or trap card your opponent controls, destroy it. Then the secondary effect again, special summon a runic from extra. Pretty straightforward too. And also all these runic quick play spells, they also have a mill effect too off that first effect. So for example, with Runic Destruction, you target 1 spell trap, pop it, and then you also banish the top 4 cards of your opponent's deck. Kind of like how I mentioned earlier at the start, your main win condition with this deck is to stall out your opponent and to mill their deck. So if they got a 40 card deck and they're not able to out your mine or out your runic cards, it's game. Your opponent's better off to scoop right away to not waste time. So 3 Runic Destruction. Then I run 3 Runic Slumber. With Slumber, you target one of your monsters, and the next time it would be destroyed, it's not. That's destroyed by card effect or by battle. Pretty sweet card when you go into some of your other plays and set up some of your floodgates right there. It's also some good protection for your runic extra deck monsters. Super nice right there. So I run 3 there for the protection aspect and to help stall a little more and save your monsters on board. Then I run 2 Flashing Fire. With Flashing Fire, you target one special summon monster your opponent controls and destroy it. Nice little card right there. Then after the destruction, banish the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Pretty straightforward there. Then next into my one-of quick plays for Runic. Runic Dispelling. If your opponent draws a card outside of the draw phase, you randomly select one of your opponent's cards in hand, discard it, and then mill some cards off your opponent's deck. I think this one's 2. Runic Dispelling, it's a nice little card to have, especially if you know your opponent's going to be drawing a lot. And you got a nice little combo to go into Runic Golden Droplet, my next one. In combination with the 2, so Droplet right here, your opponent draws 1 and mills 4. So you activate that, then activate Dispelling, comboing them together. They get a draw, but you're also discarding 1, so it's not even a plus for your opponent, and then it's a -6 for milling right there. Pretty sweet. I've been trying to play around with these a little more, and I think as I go, I'm going to up these a little bit, see how I like them, and just really push for the milling aspect of this deck. So 1 each of those. And then my last one for the quick plays is Runic Smiting Storm. So with this one, you banish the top cards of your opponent's deck equal to the amount of cards that they currently control. So if they have 5 on board, they're milling 5. If they have 1, they're milling 1. I only run 1 at this since it's a little more situational. But it is very important to have all these quick plays, at least 1 of each, because just the recurrence with this deck and the amount of times you can activate these is amazing. So those are all of my quick plays for Runic. Next, I am running 1 Allure. It is searchable. I've seen some lists running 2, some at 3. I think 1 is solid. Generally, I don't want to see this in my opening hand. It is nice though, so its effect is anytime a quick play Runic spell is activated, after it resolves, your opponent mills 1 additional card. And it's a non-activated effect and mandatory, so just remember that there. Then rounding out Runic cards, I got 2 Fountains. So this is the field spell for the deck. It is searchable through multiple methods and even an in-archetype search, which we'll get to a little later. When this is activated, you can activate quick play spells from the hand. Runic quick play spells, should I add. So when it's your opponent's turn, it's really your turn also. So as long as you can keep this card protected, it's pretty sweet. And then it also has a soft once per turn. Hear that right, soft once per turn if you happen to go into it multiple times, to where after a quick play spell is activated on resolution, you can target up to 3 quick play Runic spell cards in your grave, return them to the bottom of your deck in any order, then draw the same amount. That's on your turn and on your opponent's turn if it resolves. So plenty of draw power, plenty of ways to go into all your Runic cards, plenty of disruption. So those are my Runic cards right there. Pretty much the bulk of my deck right there. I don't remember the exact number, but you want to be running as many Runic quick plays as possible. And so that's what I had for those. Then going into some of my generic stuff, got 3 Pot of Extras. You don't really use your extra deck too much. You don't need it too much. So the banishment, it can hurt in some situations, but the draw 2 is just so nice that you run this at 3 and don't even really mind the banishment of your extra deck monsters. So 3 there. Then, as I mentioned, 3 Mystic Mine. This is basically another stall, so then you stop your opponent from activating monster effects and from doing any battle damage to you, and you can just mill out their deck. Pretty straightforward. If this card happens to get banned, no sweat to me. With all the other floodgates that are out there and that you can possibly run, yeah, it would suck, but even if this goes to 0 or 1, it's not the end of the world for Runics. Runics will live. So 3 mine. Then into other floodgates, I run 3 rivalry. Pretty straightforward there. Each player can only control one type of monster. Another way just to slow your opponent down, stop them from going into any crazy combos, and just stall. Name of the game with Runics: stall, 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 and mill. Then I run 2 Gozen. I was running 3, but I needed to fit other cards into my deck and keep it down as low as possible to that 40 mark, which this deck is 40. I like to play my decks nice and lean, and so that's why I'm playing 2 Gozen. Then 2 Vanity's Fiend. Vanity's Fiend was the savior of this deck. This card stopped my opponents from playing basically all the time. I special summon out one of my Runic extra deck monsters, tribute it off to go into him. Opponent can't even special summon, can't go into any other plays. It's set and pass. Set and pass. And then with the Runic Slumber that I mentioned earlier, giving him protection, pretty sweet right there. So I only run 2 of him right here. 3 I found to be a little too bricky, and at points was just discard fodder, which if you're just going to run a card for discard fodder, what's the point? So I bumped him down to 2, and I think I like that proportion the best right now. Then 3 Judgments. We really don't care about life points in this deck unless you're going into game 3 in time. So any way to stop your opponent from Dark Rulering you or any other methods that they can try to out your board, that's what we want to run. So 3 Solemns. And then now into the miscellaneous 1-ofs that I had in the deck. 1 Metaverse, because you want to go into your field spells or into Mystic Mine. 1 Terraforming. I do run 1 Upstart Goblin to help bring the consistency up just a smidge. Again, we don't care about life points all too much because we are going for the mill. However, when I was siding out, this was one of the first cards I would side out. So the 1 Upstart. Then rounding out the 40 card list, I did run 1 card Destruction. Opening hand, if you're going first, this card is sweet. You do all your plays, you get all your Runic stuff going on, activate this card, your opponent discards their entire hand. 5 cards and then draws 5. It adds to the mill. It hurts, though, if they discard something that they can actually use in grave, but I found it more useful than not, and an easy way just to dump a quick 5 cards or a few cards, or even once or twice it came up to where we were pass and turn back and forth. My opponent had an easy 6 cards in hand. Activate this. There's another mill 6 right there. So I found this nice, a little situational, but nice to have, and it came up more times than I actually thought it would be. So right there, that's my 40 card Runic main deck right there. Now going into the extra, as I mentioned, the extra is not too important really. As long as we have 1 each of the Runic cards left in the deck, we can still play. So 3 Gary, Jury, however you want to pronounce his name, the Runic Fangs. He's nice. He cannot be destroyed by a card effect. Then if this card is special summoned, you can target one non-quick play Runic spell, engrave, added to hand. Pretty sweet. Then also during battle, if he would be destroyed by battle, I can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. So it's a nice little pop if your opponent's not expecting that. It's a little disruption right there. I didn't go into him. I don't even think I was able to go into him once, but a good situational card to have. So 3 of him. Then 3 Munin. Munin, super nice. Same with the next one I got to show, but with Munin, when he's summoned, you can discard a card and add a continuous Runic spell card. So that's going into the allure right there. Then also he has the effect that if your opponent targets a Runic card or a set spell or trap, you can banish him, negate, and then destroy that card. Pretty sweet right there. And something also, if you're running this deck, you need to remember, especially going into time, that on your end phase, if he's on board, you gain 1,000 life points on end phase, and that's non-activated. I think, honestly, I could have won my second matchup against against Eldritch, but I forgot that 1000 effect and didn't even go into him. I'm like kicking myself after that. But so don't forget, on end phase, you gain 1000 life points off of him. It's crazy. Then next, I run 3 Hugin, 3 Runic Wings. She was my main starter that I went into with my Runic Quick Plays. Special summon her, you discard a card, and then you can add the field spell. So Fountain, that's the searcher right there. Pretty sweet right there. And then let me read this quick so I can make sure I get this right. If another card or cards you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card you control instead. So it's protection right there. So some nice protection right there. Then if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, it returns to extra deck. So some recursion right there, some nice little recursion. She was my main extra deck monster I went into, so good play right there. So 3 of her. Then I run 3 gravity controller, and honestly these next 6 spots, including these 3, don't really matter. I ran the gravity controller just to out my extra deck monster if I needed to. Pretty straightforward right there. Then the next 3 I ran, they're honestly dead spots. So if you wanted to run super poly targets and you had super poly on the side, these would be your 3 spots. And I honestly just threw these in for no reason in particular. I just had 3 open spots, and I threw them in my extra deck just because I had to fill that 3 extra spots. But if you are running super poly, these would be your super poly targets right there. So that's rounding out the deck. 40 card Runic, 15 card extra deck. And again, I took second place at locals yesterday with this. I'm still tweaking it here and there, but I am enjoying the play of Runic. I enjoy the whole mill factor, even though I know my opponents don't like it all too much. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hit the like, give us a subscribe, let us know your thoughts, comments, good or bad. We want to hear them. But yeah, this is Infinite Nebula Gaming, and till next time, have a good one.